Okay. My name is Hudson Reed. It's October the 21st, 2018. And this is the presentation I said I was going to put out there. It is called Red Pill America. And the purpose of the video is to raise awareness, to raise consciousness about what is happening on this planet. It is designed for people that really haven't done any research. If you've done research, you still may not know some of the subject matter that I have put in here. I am not going to get into the dark areas. Number one, I don't want to be banned. And two, I don't think it's a good place to start. So this is not going to be hardcore stuff. It's going to be pretty reasonable. It is going to be public, so if you like the video, feel free to share it. Okay, we'll get started. Okay, the first thing we need to discuss is the monetary system. And there's a gross misunderstanding out there that the Federal Reserve is somehow part of the federal government. They are not. They have absolutely no affiliation with the government other than they're a bunch of international bankers and crooks that print our money and then basically sell paper to the federal government because they get interest-bearing bonds in exchange. And this brought about the Internal Revenue Service because someone had to pay the interest. It's all a freaking scam. It's all bullshit, okay? Now, if you step down to the next graphic here, you know, we'll take some of the funny money right here, which is basically debt. Because you have to remember, it's not backed by anything. It's worthless. It's paper. So you're starting out with debt. And then we go through these banks, and they keep 10%. We go lend out some more money, and they reserve 10. And basically, after 2 exchanges, you have 171 units loaned that was worthless to start with. Then, to make things worse, you have quantitative easing, which is right here. And that is what Obama was doing. He had QE1, QE2, and QE3, which basically is to take billions of dollars and throw it into the market and say you're going to stimulate it. It's complete nonsense. It's like taking a nice pitcher of tea and pouring, a gallon of water in it. It dilutes the value of the currency. That's just, simple logic, okay? You've got over here Mayor Amschel Rothschild. I'm sure you must have heard of the Rothschild family. They were money lenders, bankers, or whatever. The Knights Templar actually were the first bankers that I'm aware of. But he says, give me control of the nation's money supply, and I care not who writes the laws. Because you can bankrupt a country doing this. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed to destroy a country within. We have over $21 trillion in debt right now, if that's any clue for you. Here are his sons, 5 of them. He sent throughout Europe and other places, and they set up these central banks as well. It's all a scam. Let's jump over here to this graphic, and you can see here that they're telling us that Iran, North Korea, and Cuba are the only countries that don't have a central bank because Hillary Clinton made all that possible. Here's a short clip of Hillary.
So, that is the land of unconfirmed videos. We came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with your visit? No, oh, I'm sure it did.
Well, she's just insane. And they went after Bashir Assad down here, trying to topple this country and install a central bank. That's what that's all about. That's really what of course they're going to get the oil and everything else to go with it. But that's really the objective. And you've got down here, Andrew Jackson, you are a den of vipers and thieves. I've determined to rout you out. By the eternal, I will rout you out. He actually did get rid of the bankers. But then this jackass, Woodrow Wilson, I'm a most unhappy man, I've unwittingly ruined my country, sold us out to the bankers. And my understanding is that was the deal he got to become the president. And two, they probably did blackmail him. That's sort of to be expected. Obviously, John F. Kennedy, with his silver certificate, had to be taken out, along with he wanted to stop Vietnam. There were so many things. He wanted to take down the CIA, on and on. You know, he represented a huge threat. The problem is he underestimated how entrenched they were and how big this deep state really is. Okay, there's another video I want to play here which explains the monetary system, and I'm just going to play a piece of it.
They're broke because we have a system called fractional reserve banking, which means that banks can lend money that they don't actually have. It's a criminal scandal, and it's been going on for too long. To add to that problem, you have moral hazard, a very significant moral hazard from the political sphere. And most of the problem starts in politics and central banks, which are part of the same political system. We have counterfeiting, sometimes called quantitative easing, but counterfeiting by any other name. The artificial printing of money, which if any ordinary person did, they'd go to prison for a very long time.
Okay, I think we hit the point there. So let's see if we can get on to the next screen here. Okay, Operation Paperclip. This is big. This is big. This was technically, in my opinion, the invasion of the United States by the Nazis. And you wonder where all this stuff comes from. And Antifa and whatever this other thing is, you know, their flag looks Nazi. Anyway, from 1945 to 1955, Operation Paperclip granted 1,000 German scientists American citizenship. Many were longtime members of the Nazi Party and the Gestapo and had conducted experiments on humans at concentration camps and committed war crimes. The scientists ended up in the U.S. military-industrial complex, blah, blah, blah. Also were involved in at these camps and experiments involving MK Ultra, and I'm going to raise this up. Anytime I raise this up, this means that it goes much deeper and it gets much darker. But I said I wasn't going to go there, so we'll keep it relatively simple. You can see over here that Werner von Braun became NASA, the administrator for NASA. Well, he's a Nazi. He's SS. He was even decorated. You have Arthur Rudolph, who was a Nazi, or excuse me, a NASA scientist. Sidney Gottlieb brought us MK Ultra in the CIA. Let me say something about the CIA. The CIA was actually once called OSS, but when Operation Paperclip, I think the Vatican even helped bring the Nazis over. But the OSS plus SS gave us the CIA. So you had 5% of them, according to William Tompkins, 5% came into the United States, 5% came into the Soviet Union, and that's 1,000, right? Because of this business up here. So that means 18,000 went to Antarctica. Now that should raise a flag for people, and I would even venture to say it goes very, very deep and very dark. I've got a slide on Antarctica, but I'm not going to be able to go into it in great depth. But let's take a look at a video here on Paperclip. We may not watch all of it.
In fact, Corso claims a covert group of highly technical and forward-thinking individuals was put into place to collect and analyze all of the advanced materials that came from another world.
Another world.
When the big guns went silent, the Nazis finally surrendered at the end of World War II. There was a mad dash by the Allies to get into Berlin, to the victory, to the spoils. But it wasn't gold or materials the U.S. wanted. It was the advanced knowledge the German scientists held. It was codenamed Operation Paperclip, a program used to recruit the Deutschland's brightest minds, scientists who knew rocketry and who invented the far-advanced V-2 rocket. They were deemed vital to the United States' survival, an essential part of the burgeoning American-Soviet Cold War. These were the same men that were also responsible for the German version of the flying saucer. It's believed in many circles the Nazis had already devised an aircraft that resembled the outer space version. They were called.
Okay. Now we'll go down here and take a look at the damage that they've done. They infiltrated NASA. They infiltrated the CIA. They infiltrated high levels of government. And I want to just mention here, if you do your homework and you go look up Prescott Bush and look up Union Bank and Harriman Brothers and all this business, you find that Prescott Bush funded the Nazis. That was before, during, and after the war. Actually, I believe that he was caught, and I'm going to leave it right there. I need to move on. Okay, there are secret societies that they infiltrated, like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and Bilderberg. These are three of the big ones. Now, there are many, many, many deep, dark secret societies. OTO is one that's disgusting, but I said I would not go into dark areas. Now, we're going to let Hillary tell you about what kind of a president she would have made with her speech to the Council on Foreign Relations.
Thank you very much, Richard, and I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have this far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
Be told what we should be doing. You know, you think the American people would have elected a president, and then the president and Congress and the three branches of government would dictate all of this stuff, but no. The Council on Foreign Relations is going to tell her what to do. You begin to get the picture. Now, I want to say this presentation is designed to give you pieces of the puzzle, and you're going to have to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And when this is over with, and if you retain the pieces of the puzzle and you find out something else, you take that piece and see if it fits. This is how I've gotten to the point where I know this stuff. And if I find something, I match it up against all my pieces. That's why you have to do the research. Enough of that. We'll move on. Okay, we get into high jump here. First off, you have to notice that look at the United States versus the size of Antarctica. It's just enormous. And no one gets to go there. Admiral Byrd has made several trips. The Nazis made trips there. In fact, Byrd even helped the Nazis before the war prepare. There have been other trips there. Here's a map right here that's dated 1513, the Perry-Reese map. And you can actually see the coastline. So it raises huge questions about what's there. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think there's a Nazi base there, okay? And maybe at the end of this video you'll think so, or maybe you'll research it further and prove me wrong or prove me right. But why did John Kerry go to Antarctica on the day of the election? You know, between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And he's a member of Skull and Bones. And how anybody thinks that would be a nice club to join is beyond me. It's on Yale's campus. I'm not going to get into it. Here's Patriarch Krill, who comes to Antarctica. I have no idea why he had to come. He had to bless something. There's something I read about the Ark of Gabriel, that he brought the Ark of Gabriel. I don't know. Now, before we get into the flying saucer stuff, please don't get stupid. We already have the TR-3B Black Manta, made by Northrop Grumman. It is anti-gravity propulsion system. You know, so when you see this stuff, this is not ET. Now, did the technology come from the ETs? I think it did. I think Roswell, the incident at Roswell, like it or not, was real. And I think we got some technology from them. And I think there have been other instances where this occurred as well. This is the Nazi bell. And there's a book by Joseph P. Farrell that discusses this bell. It's fascinating. In fact, I think the bell could be central to a saucer or a ship. And I have a video down here. I have to be careful not to touch anything because it takes off. But this will discuss the Nazi bell, but I want to show this first clip. And I have to be very careful because, well, let me just say this. There is some, the film's been augmented and it's got some animation in it. So if you see some stupid stuff, just disregard it. Okay, here we go. Go ahead, push
5 miles long. He comes in to make a landing. Water temperatures must be recorded. Samples taken. He finds the water fresh. Temperature 38 degrees Fahrenheit. On the shores are vast deposits of coal and of minerals of the utmost importance to civilization.
I want to pause this for just a second. Operation High Jump consisted of 5,000 men. Now, I've heard different numbers, but let's just go with 5,000. They had an icebreaker. They had an aircraft carrier. According to William Tompkins, they had 200 planes. They had a submarine and a destroyer. And they may have had other ships and things. I just don't, the helicopter I know for sure. But this was supposed to be a 6-month venture that turned into 3 weeks. And according to William Tompkins, the battle between, I'm going to go ahead and say it, the Nazis and their flying saucers that were now ready when they weren't ready during World War II, which is why they boogied. They left. They had this and they didn't have that. That's my understanding, okay? So they didn't have that stuff ready. Now you got to remember something. They'd hidden all kinds of stuff from us. So if you're gonna freak out and flip out over free energy and anti-gravity technology, anti-gravitics and all this stuff, then you may as well just go back to sleep. Because the truth is out there, but you're going to have to open your mind if you want to see it, okay? Now I'm going to see if I can get this started again.
On February
It'll get a little goofy.
1947, a battle took place, which is described by a member of the expedition, an experienced pilot called John Sanderson. A series of black flying saucer-like ships flew out of the water and slipping between the mass of the ships with such high speed that 2 Corsair planes from the Casablanca were swinging by some kind of mysterious ray shot by the nose section.
That's some animation.
Saucer.
Get past it.
floated between the ships like a satanic beast, spitting deadly thunder. I saw the destroyer Murdoch, which was 120 feet away. Flames flashed, and it began to sink. The nightmare lasted 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
After the war, the Nazi secret archives,
This is interesting.
intriguing photos and drawings were discovered. They proved the German scientists were actually engaged in the development of disc-shaped aircrafts.
I have seen pictures of documents that show a submarine commander how to get to the Nazi base in Antarctica. I've also seen a letter. I don't know if these things are completely legitimate, but I'm going to mention them anyway. They look legitimate as all get out. But anyway, there's also a letter by one submarine commander indicating that he arrived safely. Anyway, you know, if you study this stuff long enough and you get enough pieces of the puzzle, this doesn't seem so far-fetched. Okay, I'm gonna move on now, and I hope I can do this without committing a crime. This is the bell. I'm gonna push ahead.
With the occultism of Nazis and research into free
That's the
energy
black
and
sun.
anti-gravity. Witkowski learned
See that on the bell?
after he obtained access to transcripts of the interrogation of the SS officer Jacob Sporenberg. The German officer spoke of an experiment carried out in secret at the hidden Nazi base Der Riese in the Owl Mountains near the Czech border. Several authors have speculated that the device, which we still don't understand, may have been some form of time travel machine. According to an article published by Patrick Heiger in the National
Open your
Geographic,
mind.
dialogue has become a popular speculation topic, and there's been something of a fandom formed around not just dialogue, but also the other supposed Wunderwaffen. The bell was said to be an occult weapon based on technology beyond anything that humans could produce. Even so, the chance that there is some revolutionary device like this hidden away somewhere has certainly sparked the imagination of writers. Some writers, such as Jan van Helsing and Vladimir Terzicki, were more than happy to mix facts and fiction and create mystical weapons, secret societies, Nazi esotericism, and UFOs, which became a really popular topic in the 50s. So, just what is the bell? The bell was an experiment supposedly undertaken by Nazi scientists who worked for the SS at the facility Der Riese, which is German for the giant, near the Czech border. The bell itself is described as being a device made from hard and heavy metal.
I think this is still there. I think it can be seen.
In diameter, and between 3.7 and 4.6 meters high. It gets the name because it is shaped like a bell. According to an interview.
Okay, that's enough. I want to make another point here, and that is when Byrd returned after 3 weeks, I mean, he was butchered. He was interviewed by a Chilean newspaper called El Mercurio, and Joseph Farrell discusses this in detail. But basically what he said was, you know, that he was very concerned about what they had encountered, these ships that could fly from pole to pole at enormous speeds. I mean, to take out 200 planes, if I'm correct, just to do anything in 20 minutes like that. William Tompkins even said they went ashore and soldiers were getting off and they were completely annihilated. Something is there, folks. Just open up your mind. That's all I'm saying. Don't throw this out just because it doesn't fit the reality that you have, because I'll be honest with you, everything on this planet is not what it appears to be. Okay? We'll move on. Okay, this is the media, the wonderful mainstream Mockingbird media. Operation Mockingbird was a fully implemented CIA program to spread disinformation throughout America media. CIA Director William Colby testified to the Church Committee that over 400 CIA agents were active in the U.S. media to control what was reported through American mainstream television, newspapers, and magazines. That's the same thing up here. The television is a brainwashing machine, okay? And of course, Trump and the fake news fiasco. Then you got down here the Russian connection. I'm going to let Nancy Pelosi do some of my work in a minute. I want to talk about my friend down here, Mr. Operation Mockingbird. He is the son of Gloria Vanderbilt and Anderson Cooper Cooper. He worked for the CIA. Fact, okay? And listen to Nancy first. She's going to explain how they use the media to brainwash you, okay?
The difference is we don't engage in the politics of personal destruction. The fact is that if we just talk about the issues, for example, I think it'd be interesting to people in these districts to know that the speaker wants to take away the guarantee of Medicare. So I think talking about issues is where we should be. What is the difference in one person being speaker than another? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear.
The wrap-up
You
smear.
want to talk politics, call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic.
It's a tactic.
And it's self-evident. But I think I'm worth the trouble.
Oh, yes, you definitely are.
I love the fray. I'm not,
You
I'm not
dumb bitch.
disrespectful of people's views. I respect any positive
Disgusting.
things that people want to say, or even negative, as long as it's constructive.
Okay, enough of her. The point to make clear here is there are between 5 and 6 corporations that over the course of time have been bought up and are controlled. 90% of the media is owned by 5 to 6 corporations. I think I got that number right. It doesn't really matter. Okay, listen to this. This is fascinating.
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. And we're looking at that very carefully.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
Okay, I think that's enough. You know, let's take a look at 2 things real quick. National security. That is the biggest excuse for not disclosing the truth. The Freedom of Information Act. We're still trying to get information on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. I mean, you can't make this shit up. It's that stupid. I'm not that stupid to believe this bullshit. I want the truth, and I think everybody else should want the truth. And if you want the truth, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to wake up and ask for it, okay? You're going to have to do the research. You can't sit back on the couch and watch the football game all day long. I know everybody works hard, but if we can't raise the consciousness on this planet, we are not going to evolve. And I'm going to let this video finish. I think he does have something good to say.
At CBS, we had been contacted by the CIA. As a matter of fact, by the time I became the head of the whole News and Public Affairs operation in 1954, ships had been established, and I was told about them and asked if I'd carry on with them.
We have quite a lot of detailed information, and we will evaluate it. And
okay, that's enough. Okay, this is gonna, some people aren't gonna like this slide. And it's complicated. It's going to take me a little bit of time to get through this. There is something called the Hegelian dialectic. And Hegel was a philosopher, and his concept is more complicated than I care for. David Icke calls it problem, reaction, solution. Okay? And this is where we get into, I can't say this word because I could get banned, that's what I understand, so I'm just not going to say it, but I'm going to circle it like this. Maybe they can't pick up memes yet. But what you do is you first covertly create the problem, okay? Then you wait for the reaction from the public. What are you going to do? You've got to come and save us. Then offer the solution, which was the problem you created in the first place. Okay, let's go over here for a second. This is the sinking of the Lusitania, which is basically responsible for World War I. This was a ship that was going through a channel headed to Britain. And it was advertised as a cruise, and about 100+ passengers that were Americans got on board. They knew damn well that a German U-boat was traveling in that channel, and at the bottom of the ship were explosives. So when the submarine fired on the ship, it blew up the ship, and guess what? We get to go to war. All wars are banker wars. They're only created for profit and to create loosh. And you can look that up. Now, the next one is going to be very disturbing. I will point to a book that you may go and read if you have questions. The Day of Deceit, the truth about FDR and Pearl Harbor. He knew that those planes were coming. And there were 2 admirals on Pearl Harbor, I believe that's the way I read it, that took the hit for it. They had no idea because that son of a bitch did not tell them they were coming. And why was it done? To get the U.S. to join in the war against Japan and Germany. Okay? Now, this one is even stranger. You've got the Gulf of Tonkin incident. This was a U.S. vessel. And remember Nancy Pelosi, how they used the media. You know, the media reports it, and then they come back and do their deal, their slam or whatever she called it. But the Gulf of Tonkin was an American ship that was supposedly fired upon by a North Vietnamese vessel, and that was complete bullshit. Okay. 9/11, there are probably people that are still thinking this, that's fine. What I would tell you to do is to please answer this question for me. How did Building 7 go down by an office fire? No planes hit it. It was a controlled demolition. Lucky Larry Silverstein, insured it days before or weeks before. It goes down. All you have is dust. I'm not going to get into it any further. But these false flag events is what got us the Patriot Act, the National Defense Authorization Act, Homeland Security, Orwellian state. Okay? So that's how you lose your freedom, when you fall for this shit. Okay? I've got a video here. I've got to determine which one goes off first. I believe Bush does. Let's hear what Bush has to say.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make. Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. Either you're with us, either you love freedom and with nations which embrace freedom, or you're with the enemy. There's no in between. You're either with us or you're with the enemy. That's clear. I will continue to make that clear.
Now, I don't think he was talking about you're either with us, other countries. I think he's talking to the American people. I think he's threatening the American people and creating fear. And it makes people obey. Okay? You can take it any way you want. You heard it 3 times. That's the way I get it. Okay, this is General Wesley Clark. And when you listen to this video, I'll have to think of it. Let me go ahead and play it and see if I can remember it.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
Go through the countries again?
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
Okay. This was Project for a New American Century, and it was put together by Dick Cheney and some other criminals. They devised a plan basically where they were going to get us involved in these fake wars. Why did we go into Afghanistan? I have no idea, except to protect the poppy fields where the heroin is grown so they can bring it in. The CIA is really an agency that runs drugs, brainwashes people through mind control, and all kinds of crazy lunacy. This is what they do. Now, this down here at the bottom was the burning of the Reichstag. Now, the only reason why I put this here is to let people understand that this is not the New World Order. Has been around for a long time. Hitler used the New World Order. Novus Ordo Seclorum on the dollar bill. Now, what the Reichstag was is they intentionally set fire to the Reichstag, blamed it on some person, and then as a result of it, begin the process of bringing on this Orwellian state. Okay, this next video I think is very revealing because this is Bush. Now bear in mind, the 9/11, bear in mind all the people that have been killed in these damn wars, which need to stop. Listen to what Bush has to say, and I mean this should piss you off.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I've had it with the Bushes. I'm not happy with them living in Houston or Dallas. Okay, moving on. Get past all that. War is a racket. Major General Smedley Butler, 1935. Did you know that they actually tried to create a coup and overthrow our government by giving him, my understanding is $3 million. They offered him $3 million. There were 500,000 troops or something. He was a beloved leader, general. So they chose him, and they tried to get him to go with this coup to overthrow Roosevelt. Now you can research that all you want, but he also wrote a book that's called War is a Racket. Kind of interesting for a general to say that. And that's all I have time for. Check it out. Remember, don't trust anything that I say here. Do your own research. If you question something, go research it yourself. That's it on this slide. Okay. These are people that I have a high regard for in terms of research. So I give them credits. Now I'm going to let a video run here, and I'm going to let it run till the end, and then we'll just finish up. But this is Aaron Rousseau meeting with a Rockefeller and finding out what the global elite really have in mind for you and I. They love us so much. Hopefully I've kept this under an hour. I don't know. I've cut through some stuff.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is giving me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything,
you sell.
Everything is in there, And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave, you become a serf to these people. That's their goal, that's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me. and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him, and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told me what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event. And out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq, to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we'd go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened. And I remember he was telling me how you're going to see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places. And there's going to be this war on terror, which is no real enemy. And the whole thing is a giant hoax, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no question. He says, there's going to be war on terror. And he's just laughing. There's no, who are we fighting? I mean, why do you think 9/11 happened and then nothing's happened since then? Do you think that our security is so great here that these people who pulled off 9/11 were able to can't knock down another plane? Come on, it's ridiculous. 9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people into subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this war, this endless war on terror. And that's why and that was the first lie. And the next lie was going into Iraq, to get Saddam Hussein out with his weapons of mass destruction. That was the next lie.
Now, specifically, this was a little over 6 years ago.
This was
11 months before 9/11.
Yeah.
And Nick Rockefeller, who's a lawyer, he's become your friend over the previous years, and he's saying to you that there's going to be this big event, and then out of that we're going to have a war on terror, and it's just going to go on and on.
Right. An endless war on terror without any real enemy. That you can never define a winner.
And did he say that it's going to be perfect because you can't define an enemy? It just goes on and
Yeah,
on?
you can't define a winner. There's no one who's going to beat, so it goes on and on forever. And they can do whatever they want. They scare the hell out of the American public. Look, this whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. It's very difficult to say it out loud because people are intimidated against saying it. Because if you say it, they want to make you into a nutcase. But the truth has to come out. That's why I'm doing this interview. The fact of the matter happens to be that the whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. There's a war going on in Iraq because we invaded Iraq. And people over there fighting, But the war on terror, it's a joke, And until we discover what really happened on 9/11 and who was responsible for 9/11, because that's where the war on terror emanates from. That's where it comes from.
National security. We can't kill you. All right, enough is enough. If you liked the video, share it. If you didn't like the video, feel free to comment. You won't hurt my feelings at all. Hopefully it wakes somebody up. Hopefully it helps to wake somebody up. The truth will set us free, but we have to open up our minds and we have to look at the things that we don't want to look at. The things that make us have to do something. Anyway, that's all. Y'all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.